Welcome back to RoomPack's Res Ed podcast chat. Today is a special RA chat edition where we talk about issues of importance to RAs and student staff members in housing and residence life. Today's episode is called Winter is Coming, Wrapping Up and Looking Ahead. We'll be talking about what it means to close out a semester well and prepare for the spring. And today I have a very special guest with me who I was inspired by their LinkedIn post. So again, very excited to have them here on the podcast. Dr. Jones. So Dr. Jones, if you would like to introduce yourself right now and tell the students all the amazing things that you have done to get into your position and where you're at now.
Hey y'all, I hope your day is going amazing. But as Mr. Martinez said, my name is Dr. Asha Jones, and I serve as the Associate Director of Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion at NASPA. However, I do want to point out that my views today are my views, not necessarily reflective of NASPA or any entity that I work for. My journey to student affairs was kind of interesting. I came into student affairs not in a kind of non-traditional way. There was a department shut down in the government back in 2009, and I was working with a mentor at the time, and she was making me come to school with her at the University of Utah and volunteer with her. And so I began volunteering with her, like helping her advise the Black Student Union. And I'll be honest, I was getting a little bit irritated because I'm like, hey, why am I helping? And I don't get paid for this. And little did I know that was my entryway into student affairs. And so she was taking a job at another institution, at another local institution in Utah. And she had went to the VP at the time and said, hey, Asia has been doing the work. How about you put her in this job as an interim role and see how she does. And then if it works out, give her the position. So I took the role as the interim position. And I did not get the permanent role, which was, it was a little bit hard to bask in that. But the thing is, they wanted somebody that had an MED and I had an MBA. And at the time, they didn't feel that the two coincided together, which really it did. And so then another person on campus by the name of Dr. Paula Smith came to me and she said, hey, I want to teach you how to write grants. If you learn how to write grants, it'll lead you any job you want in higher ed. And I said, okay. She said, but I can only give you this job for a year. I'm going to guarantee you funding for a year. Outside of that, I cannot promise you anything after that. And I said, okay. So she took me in. I started learning how to write grants. She showed me how to write a lot of K through 12 grants. She showed me how to write a lot of grants for current students at an institution. And then a position opened up at my alma mater, Weber State University, called Student to Student. And it was a pipeline to help undocumented students have access to the institution and build retention programs at the institution. So then I went to Weber State University and became that coordinator and stayed there for 2 or 3 years, I think it was. And then I took a job because I was a part of the TRIO programs, Upward Bound. Langston University, historically Black college in Langston, Oklahoma, had a position of the director of Upward Bound. And I actually met the vice president of student affairs at a NASPA conference, my first NASPA conference in Arizona that I had ever attended. And he had been recruiting me for the position for like a year and a half. And I was like, I don't want to move to Oklahoma. I already live in Utah. Like, why would I move to Oklahoma? And so anyway, funny story. That night I was, that week I was watching the Oklahoma Thunder play. And I was like, if they win this week, then I think I'm supposed to go to Oklahoma. And they won. And I was like, okay, so I took the position and I stayed there for 2 years. And then I went to another institution and then journeyed on over to San Diego State University and then came in at San Diego State University. I had several different roles: disability services director, interim director of the identity centers they had at the institution, and then special assistant to the vice president of student affairs. And now you're probably thinking, like, how does this all relate to RA stuff? And like, how do all her positions, because she never worked in the residential halls. Well, the beauty of all my positions is I got to do a lot of the trainings from trainings within the residential hall staff. And I did a lot of the different trainings and projects that they would do to engage students in the curriculum throughout the academic year. And it's funny to me because it's funny to me now to see my journey as to where I am now, because I was the student that the RAs probably were like, oh my God, we cannot wait till she leaves this campus Like I was
Oh,
absolutely ridiculous, like in college. One night we played a trick on the boys on the football team. We put chairs in the elevators so they couldn't get up and down. One day we put water buckets in front of their door. We did a variety of things that I probably won't even share, but we did a variety of things. So my RA was not the most excited with me at all times, but then I got to become a community assistant and work the front desk. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I was so terrible to my RAs because I didn't have to deal with everything that the RAs dealt with. But as a community assistant, I got to see the students coming in before they hit their floor, my peers before they hit their residential hall floor. And so I say all of that to say, like, even though I wasn't an RA, I think that my story can help you all to be able to stay strong as the end of the semester comes through when winter is coming. You know, winter is coming, and you have to think about winter in a lot of different ways. And then I know we'll go into some questioning, but winter is a great time. You know, I think of winter, you know, spring and summer are my favorite times because in spring, you know, everything's blossoming, everything's blooming. Summer, you know, you can just be outside and enjoy the earth. But there's something special about winter because during the time of winter, the world kind of relaxes, the earth kind of relaxes, right? So, and there's these things that are happening under the ground that can only happen during a time of rest and reflection. And so I think about like if you live in a snowy part of the world, then there's this snow that's on the ground that's covering up everything that's allowing the ground to rest, right? And so I think that when you allow the ground to rest and you are the ground and you allow that time to rest, Dr. Cynthia Dillard talks about in of the spirit of our work, the book that she has about recollecting, remembering, and rest. But she puts parentheses are around the RE to emphasize those are the most parts of it because you're re-energizing yourself, you're reflecting yourself. And I use a lot of her work in my dissertation work and also in the work that I do in higher ed. And so I say all of that to say that you know that winter is coming. Don't look at winter as a bad time. Look at winter as a time of the ground is refertilizing and you are the ground. You're allowed to take your time to take your rest and reflect to be able to go back into the next semester and come through with energy. And so that's how I would introduce myself before we get started. I hope that's okay.
yes, Dr. Jones, that was amazing. You're just further emphasizing on why I knew you'd be perfect for this topic. So thank you for getting us started with your introduction like that. And already you have opened up so much to me and words of wisdom. So thank you. Kind of on the same path, I want to ask you, why do you think it's important? And you kind of touched on this towards the end of why it's important for RAs to pause and reflect instead of just like rushing into a break.
So, you know, I think about a couple of songs. And I'm thinking about a song because I'm a music fanatic, and so I want to relate it back to a song. And I think it would be about, you know, uh, I would take it back to maybe Brandy, Full Moon. I don't know if you've heard that song, and some of you may have heard that song. But when you think about that song, it's about symbolic of cycles and transitions and bringing the sense of new beginnings. And I think to answer that question, that if you relate that back to that song in particular, it gives you a time to really go back and reflect because you know some people say oh with the full moon people get a little weird out in the world and that is true too, right? But a full moon allows the things to brighten up and for you to see things clearer. So if you're looking at things from a perspective of a full moon, I think that will allow you the time to really kind of connect, reflect, and rest. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. And I'll be sure to find that song too. Make sure
Okay.
we that there. They can listen to it in the background.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and then to just know more about you, and you kind of touched about it. Uh, what's one lesson you've carried from you from your early student leadership days? And I know you mentioned that and becoming a CA and everything into your professional career. So how has that helped you in your moments of reflection lead into now?
One of the things that I pride myself in is I stay true to me.
Mm.
Um, Nipsey Hussle says stay 10 toes down. And I say 10 toes down in who I am. I don't change my personality because of the rooms that I'm in. I bring my personality into the rooms I'm in. And let me be very clear on that. I'm not saying that, how I talk to my friends I tell people all the time, from the streets to the suites. I can flow either way. If we're on the streets, I can have that combo. If we're in the suites, I can have that combo. But I don't change who I am dependent on the room I'm in. I check the temperature of a room. And that's one of the things that I've learned as a student leader myself and as a leader, is not to change who I am, but check the temperature of that room, because who I am may not be ready for that particular room at that time. And it's not to say that it won't come, but like if you're in a meeting, for example, with a student or with a colleague and the situation is heated, I can't bring thug life with me to that meeting, right? I have to bring a softer version of me to that meeting. And that doesn't mean I'm changing who I am. I'm still staying true and standing tall to who I am, but understanding the room that I'm in to be able to check the temperature of that room. I check the temperature of that room, but then I'm also checking the temperature of me. And I think that that is one of the things I try to pride myself on, is just remembering who I am at all times and remembering what I bring to a table and what I don't need to leave at a table, and also what tables that I may not even need to serve at anymore. And I think that comes in when you're authentically who you are.
Okay, Dr. Jones. So my next question for you is, if you could challenge every RA listening to focus on one area of growth next semester, what would it be?
Um, one of the things that I think about a lot is people are really engaged in titles of things right now in the world that we live in. And so,
Mhm.
one of the things that I would say is one powerful area of growth for student leaders and student affairs professionals, whether they be faculty or staff, is learning to balance influence with responsibility. It's common for new leaders to get excited about having a title or a platform or a chance to organize and direct others. But the real leadership growth comes, Anthony, when they recognize that their role is less about control and is more about serving. It's more about empowering. It's about stewarding the trust of their peers. And I think that growth can really look like shifting from me to we, moving beyond personal recognition and creating a collective success for everybody that's there, right at the table. And then developing accountability, understanding that every decision has a ripple effect on people, the culture, and the outcomes, right? And then practicing humility and listening. One of the things that I talk with my dad about, because he's a great person, my adopted dad, but sometimes he listens to respond and not listens to hear. So when you practice humility and listening, it's realizing that the best leaders amplify other voices rather than dominate them. And I think that moves you from the me to we, and that helps you to really move from that perspective of learning how to use your balance and your influence responsibility. It's great to have a title, don't get me wrong, and it's great to have a platform, but if you have a platform and you have no ethical value to you, then what's really your platform? Then what's really your title? They go
Mm.
they go hand in hand. You can't open a door without the right key. So you have to have the right keys of balance and the balance of your influence and your responsibility. And then once you get that key to open that door, then you open the other keys of the that I've talked about, the serving, the empowering, the stewarding of trust of other people, and I think those are the key things that we really have to look at.
Yes, yes, doctor. I love that you are just talking about like these, allowing the students to reflect and figure out, talking about like 10 toes down, like who are you, having that reflection of like, what are my values? Like, what do I stand for? What does that look like?
Yeah.
And so using this break, this time, this moment before we move into spring to figure out, now that they've had this experience of like, who am I? What am I valuing? What do I value, etc. So this is great. Thank you.
You're
My next question is, around winter break time, we're talking about rest, but there can also be a time of anxiety about what's next.
right.
So, how do you personally recharge between these busy seasons as well?
So one of the things I'm big on, and if you ever get a chance to read my dissertation, or anybody that listens to this gets to, I mean, I know dissertations are boring, but mine is pretty cool, in my own personal opinion, right? But I do a lot of journaling, and I think that one of the things that I talk about in my dissertation is memos, mentors, and memos, mentors, and music. And the way that I do that is I have these memos that I've written out that really become my music, right? And they also become my mentor. And so one of the things that I try to do to relax and rest is I do a lot of writing on the my downtime. And it doesn't have to be this long journal of like pages and pages. It can be really one sentence. Today I felt such and such, or tomorrow I hope for this, and that does a couple of things. When you turn your memo into music that becomes your mentor, it actually becomes your mosaic of life. And it becomes that piece of storytelling so that you can tell the next generation of people behind you how you were able to navigate this and move forward in life. And so I think, excuse me, that's one of the things that I truly try to do um, when during my downtime is reading. I'm a huge football fan, so I know you're at UT, but I'm an Alabama girl, so I'm gonna always roll with the Tide, right? Even when the Tide sometimes doesn't roll the way that I want it to roll. The last couple of years, it has not done that. But I say that all to say is that being all jokes aside, the tide always rolls forward, no matter which way that looks, right? So I'm saying that I spend a lot of time during the winter break is great. There's lots of college football still on. So I'm watching sports. I'm having fun watching that. I'm talking trash with my friends from other SEC schools. Like we're back on top, and I just try to find the fun things in life. I used to live in San Diego. And so when I was in San Diego, I would go to the beach every day. That was my jam. I'm not one to get in the water because I don't play with Ariel and her friends. So Sebastian and them can have everything that's under the sea. I don't want no parts of that, right? However, the water was very calming to me. And I do a split base of San Diego and where I am now, right? But whenever I try to do that, I try to get near water. Water is very calming to me, and that's one of the pieces that I use is water to kind of calm my spirit, to kind of calm my water can tell you a lot of things, Anthony. Water can tell you when there's danger, water can tell you when there's calm, water can tell you when there's joy, water can tell you when there's peace. And so I try to focus on those things during my downtime. And then I try to have fun every day in life, whether that's just dancing to some random song, or just finding something to find laughter in, whether that's baking cookies for my family or hanging out with friends and cooking and doing those things. I just try to do chill things during my downtime to kind of recharge myself that don't take a lot of brain power because we're using a lot of brain power during the academic year, right? Of you're navigating people, you're navigating systems, you're navigating politics, especially with the world that we live in currently right now. It's wild in these streets, right? And so you have to find really that time where you can take your breath and move. I've started to tap into meditation. I'm officially at 5 minutes, which is very exciting for me because a couple months ago, I think I was only at 30 seconds that I could calm my brain down for 30 seconds. But meditation has been really helpful just to calm down and draw myself back in, right? And so I've been doing a lot of that lately.
Thank you. That was amazing. Thank you, Dr. Jones. Now I feel like I need to go to the ocean. And I feel like I'm the same. I'm like, maybe I'm not playing with Ariel and her friends, but I feel like I need to have that wash, have that cleanse. So thank you.
You're
Uh,
welcome.
I know we are running a little bit on time. And so before we close out, I do want to ask you if you can leave RAs with one thought of encouragement and our student leaders as they close out this year and prepare for the next year, what would it be?
Um, Let me think here for a quick second. I have so many thoughts that come to my thing, but to get one thought, um, uh, let's see. I'm gonna do two. I'm gonna do two. Let me do this. My favorite quote that I ever heard in my life is, "If I choose to be an infinite person, which I choose to be, I choose to teach people beyond me." And so you're at the perfect opportunity to teach people beyond you by your actions, by the steps that you take in your life. And so, as you wrap up your semester and prepare for what's next, I invite you to remember that you are an infinite person and what you're doing is teaching people beyond you. And remember that leadership is less about perfection and more about growth. Every late night, every duty call, every hard conversation, Every small win with your resident has stretched you in many ways that you may not even realize yet. Take the winter break to truly rest and reflect, not just on what went well, but also on the moments that challenged you, because those experiences are shaping you into be. I don't want to use the stronger. I don't want to use the word stronger leader, but being helping you to become an emotional, intelligent leader, which then builds your strength. Right? Carry those lessons with you with forward and confidence. And most of all, know that the work you've done this semester has mattered. You've created a community that supported your peers and modeled resilience. And that goes to the staff is on that and the faculty that works at institutions. This isn't just a RA piece, it's a totality and a holistic approach that helps everyone. The next season, which comes in January, right, will bring new opportunities and you'll be more ready for them than you think. You have to trust in what you learn and trust in what you've learned, trust in who you are, trust in why you are where you are, and lean into your purpose because your purpose leads you to your promise. But I want to say that sometimes when you're getting to your promise and your purpose, Rob Bass would say there's a little bit of joy and pain, sunshine and rain, and that does happen. However, excuse me, excuse me, sorry, step boldly into the spring because it's your time, it's your season, to be able to step into the totality of what your next is because winter has came, but spring is next. So everything that happened in winter while you were resting, reflecting, and remembering now is about to pop off the trees. You're going to start having flowers blooming everywhere. The trees are going to start to come back full green. So you get to see the transition from winter to spring.
Dr. Jones, that was great. Thank you. I got chills when you said leadership is not about perfection, it is about growth. I will probably see you on some TikTok edits. The students will see this and you'll have your own inspirational edits going around. So thank you. Yeah.
And I would just add in just 2 songs. So, I'm a music person. So I would, if you were to create a playlist for them, here's 4 songs that I would give that would help the staff, the faculty, and the RAs to feel more hopeful and reflective and empowering. I would think Indiari, Strength, Courage, and Wisdom is a soulful reflection about lessons learned and stepping into the future with confidence. And then Alicia Keys, Brand New Me. It's the perfect idea of carrying forward lessons and embracing the new season. And then Mary J. Blige, Just Fine, uplifting, celebratory, affirming that they've got what it takes to do this. And then Anthony Hamilton, Better Days, hopeful, it acknowledges challenges, but leans into what's ahead. And so I would say, if you were building them a mini playlist, these are some of the songs that I would put on that playlist for them.
Oh yeah, we'll make that happen. Dr. Jones, thank you again. I love the incorporation of music and all the words of wisdom you had for our students today. I did want to ask before we close out, how can students and people watching connect with you after this?
Okay, there's a couple of ways you can get to me. I'm on LinkedIn under Asha S. Jones. So you can get to me there, or you can email me at ajones@naspa.org. If you want to talk student affairs, you want to talk leadership, you want to talk about life, whatever it is that you want to talk about, I don't care. Come to me. If I have something that I can share, then I'll be so grateful to do that.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Again, thank you for joining us on this episode of the Res Ed Chat. If you have any ideas or topics or individuals you would like for me to interview, go on ahead and reach out to us here at RoomPact. We've got more tips and tools and stories coming your way the following year. And we have another episode coming out again pretty soon next month. So until then, remember to reflect on all of the great things you've accomplished, and we'll see you next time.